11:45 p.m. You're refreshing your savings account for the third time this week, and there it is. $50,127. $50,000. You did it. You walked differently that day. You opened Zillow not with the usual masochistic curiosity, but with something that feels almost like legitimacy. You schedule a call with a realtor, and they don't dismiss you. A lender emails back within 2 hours instead of 2 days. Something fundamental has shifted, and you can't quite name what it is because the houses you're looking at are the same ones that felt impossible last month. Sound familiar? That weird liminal space where you're not actually buying yet, but you've crossed some invisible line that changed how everyone treats you and how you see yourself? Where you're simultaneously proud of saving 50 grand and terrified that it still might not be enough. You felt the shift, but nobody's explained what actually changed and what didn't. I'm going to show you exactly what transforms when you hit this threshold. The real changes in how the system treats you and the mathematical reality of what you can actually afford. We'll calculate who needs to be in your household to turn that 50,000 into a house, reveal what lenders actually see when they look at your savings, and show you the complete budget of someone who made this jump. Because the psychology shift is real, but so are the numbers that determine whether you're 6 months from buying or 6 years. Let's start with validation because you need to hear this. The shift is real. Realtors do treat you differently when you say you have 50,000 saved. Lenders do respond faster. Open houses feel less like tourism and more like legitimate shopping. You're not imagining this transformation. You haven't crossed into can't afford a house territory necessarily. You've crossed into worth having the conversation territory. This is the distinction that matters. For years, you were dismissed because you couldn't execute, even if you found the perfect house. Now you can execute, which means professional time invested in you might actually yield a transaction. That's the shift. But here's the tension nobody articulates. The transformation is more psychological than mathematical. The houses you can afford haven't changed just because your savings account did. Your income still determines everything. The question that drives everything is this. Why does 50,000 feel like such a line in the sand? And what does it actually unlock versus what does it make you think it unlocks? But here's what lenders actually see when you show up with 50,000 saved. They're running calculations you probably haven't considered. Option 1, 20% down payment on a $250,000 house. That's your entire 50,000 with zero closing costs covered. Impossible unless you have another 20,000 somewhere. Option 2, 10% down on a $250,000 house. That's 25,000 for the down payment, 7,500 for closing costs, and 12,000 for 6 months of reserves that lenders want to see. That's 44,500 total. Barely possible with 5,500 of breathing room. You're wiped out. Or here's the realistic version that actually happens. 5% down on a $200,000 house. That's 10,000 for the down payment, 6,000 for closing costs, 2,000 for moving costs because you can't do it all yourself with a borrowed truck when you're exhausted from packing, 3,000 for immediate repairs from the inspector's list that the seller wouldn't fix, and 15,000 for 6 months of reserves to cover the higher mortgage payment you're about to have. That's 36,000 total, leaving you 14,000 of breathing room. This is the revelation nobody's giving you. 50,000. Dollars doesn't make you a $250,000 house buyer. It makes you a $175,000 to $225,000 house buyer with reserves, or a $250,000 house buyer with no safety net. The reason everyone treats you differently isn't because you can afford more house. It's because you can afford a house without being one car repair away from foreclosure. That 14,000 cushion is the difference between homeowner and financial crisis waiting to happen. Lenders know this. Realtors know this. They're not impressed by the 50,000 because it's a lot of money. They're impressed because it suggests you can survive the purchase and the first year of surprises. That's what changed. Not your buying power, your survival odds. Now, let's talk about why the industry response transforms at this number, because understanding this protects you from making a decision that serves them instead of you. Realtors, have a mental threshold. It's roughly enough for down payment plus 6 months of expenses. When you say you have 50,000 saved, they hear this person can close a deal and survive the first crisis. That's why they call you back. That's why they send you listings within your range instead of generic market updates. You've moved from time waster to potential commission. Lenders have a different calculation. Can this person qualify for a mortgage that leaves them with reserves? Below 30,000 saved, the answer is usually no unless income is very high. At 50,000, the answer is maybe for most households, yes for higher earners. You've crossed into approvable with decent income territory. But here's what hasn't changed, and this is critical. The houses you can actually afford, that $385,000 listing you've been watching, still impossible unless your household income is 115,000 plus. The $275,000 starter home still requires 65,000 household income minimum just to qualify and closer to 80,000 to do it without financial strangulation. Your savings crossed a threshold, but your income determines everything. This is the gap that creates confusion. You feel like a buyer because the industry validates you. The math hasn't shifted unless your income supports it. The validation feels so good after years of being dismissed that you interpret it as, I can afford to buy now, when what it actually means is, I can afford to have serious conversations now. Those are not the same thing. Let me show you what this actually looks like with real numbers. Meet Sarah and Marcus. They have $52,000 saved and combined income of $78,000. That's $6,500 per month after taxes, insurance, and retirement contributions. They're looking in a market where starter homes are $240,000. These are the 1,800 square foot ranch houses built in 1978 with original bathrooms and kitchens from 2008. Laminate countertops, vinyl flooring, popcorn ceilings. But 3 bedrooms, a yard, and a garage. They should be able to do this, right? Let's watch what happens when they actually run the numbers. Purchase price is $240,000. Down payment at 7.5% is $18,000. They want to avoid PMI if possible, but can't get to 20%, so they're splitting the difference. Closing costs are $7,200. That's title insurance, escrow fees, appraisal, inspection, all the stuff that doesn't go toward the house, but you can't close without. Immediate repairs from the inspector's list total $3,500. The roof has 5 years left but doesn't need replacement yet. The water heater is old but functional. The deck needs boards replaced for safety. These aren't optional. Moving costs are $2,000. Furniture for the bigger space is $1,800 because their apartment stuff doesn't fill a house. Total needed at closing is $32,500. Remaining savings after closing is $19,500. Now the monthly costs. Mortgage payment at 6.8% interest rate is $1,466. Property tax is $350 monthly. Homeowners insurance is $180. PMI, because they're under 20% down, is $142. HOA fees are $85. Utilities run higher than the apartment at $240. Maintenance reserve at 1% of home value annually is $200 monthly. Total monthly housing cost is $2,663. Here's their budget after buying. Take-home pay is $6,500. Housing is $2,663. That's 41% of their income. Car payments for both vehicles total $520. Car insurance is $185. Gas is $280. Groceries are $650. Phone bill is $110. Internet is $75. Student loans are $340. Health insurance premiums are $280. That leaves $1,397 remaining. Look at that number. Really look at it. $1,397 per month covers retirement savings beyond the minimum, emergency fund rebuilding, entertainment, clothing, gifts, vacation, car repairs, medical copays, home repairs beyond the reserve fund, everything that makes life livable. They're house poor but not crisis poor thanks to that $19,500 cushion. But that cushion needs to last while they rebuild the emergency fund they just spent. This is what $50,000 saved actually looks like in real life. You can buy. You're committed to years of tight budgets. Marcus is calculating whether they can afford to replace their dying fridge in year 2 while still contributing to their 401ks. Sarah is running numbers on whether a $45 dinner out breaks the monthly budget. They're watching friends take vacations while they're rebuilding savings. Every unusual sound the house makes triggers anxiety about repair costs. The pride of ownership is real. The financial pressure is constant. Here's the calculation that realtors won't do for you, and it's the most important math in this entire equation. To buy a house with 50,000 saved and not be financially strangled, you need household income of at least 75 to 80,000 in low-cost markets, 95 to 110,000 in medium markets, 130 to 150,000 in expensive markets. Here's why these numbers matter. Lenders use the 28-36 rule, no more than 28% of gross income to housing, no more than 36% to total debt. But livable reality is different. You want housing under 35% of take home pay, or you're sacrificing retirement, emergency funds, and basic quality of life. Work it backwards. If you're buying a $225,000 house, which is what 50,000 in savings can support with reserves, your monthly payment with PMI is around $2,200. To keep that at 35% of take home, you need $6,285 take home monthly. That's roughly 90,000 gross household income. Drop to 70,000 household income, and that $2,200 payment is now 44% of take home. Doable, but brutal. You're in Sarah and Marcus territory. This is the secret the industry won't tell you. 50,000 saved is impressive. It doesn't change the income math. A couple making 60,000 combined can save 50,000 through years of discipline and sacrifice and luck. They still can't afford the $240,000 starter home in their market. Not sustainably. Not without sacrificing every other financial goal. Not without living in constant anxiety about the next repair. The savings milestone created psychological legitimacy. The income limitation still exists. In expensive markets where starter homes are 400,000, you need household income of 130,000 minimum to buy with 50,000 saved and not be crushed. At median household income of 75,000 in those markets, your 50,000 gets you conversations but not houses. This is the gap between feeling ready and being ready. Here's what happens at 50,000 saved that nobody warns you about. And it's designed to separate you from your money as quickly as possible. The industry shifts from keep saving advice to buy now before prices rise pressure. Realtors suddenly emphasize market timing over personal readiness. Every listing comes with urgency language. This won't last. Multiple offers expected. Price to sell. Lenders pre-approve you for amounts that technically work but practically squeeze. The maximum you qualify for becomes the amount they suggest you should spend. The message becomes, you've arrived, time to act. But this urgency serves the industry, not you. Every month you're not buying is a month they're not collecting commission or origination fees. A realtor makes nothing from telling you to wait another year and save more. A lender profits $0 from suggesting you're not quite ready. Their incentive is conversion, not your financial health. The truth nobody's saying is this. If you're at 50,000 saved, but your income is 65,000 household, you're probably better off saving another 20,000 and waiting for the right opportunity than buying at your maximum approval amount right now. That extra cushion is the difference between surviving homeownership and thriving in it. The trap is the validation itself. It feels so good to be taken seriously after years of being dismissed that you want to reward that treatment by buying, even if the math suggests it's waiting, even if your income hasn't caught up to your savings discipline, even if the houses in your budget need work you can't afford to do. This is psychological capture disguised as market readiness. You've been conditioned to see their attention as proof of your readiness rather than proof of your profitability to them. Once you're pre-approved and looking at listings, the momentum builds. You start imagining yourself in these houses. You calculate how you could make it work. You convince yourself that house poor is temporary. And maybe it is, but maybe it's 5 years of no vacations, no career risks, no emergency fund, constant stress about every unexpected expense. So let's separate what actually changed from what the industry wants. You to think changed because this distinction protects you from expensive mistakes. What genuinely changed is this. You have options. You can survive the down payment and closing costs without being wiped out. You can weather the first major repair without catastrophe. You've proven savings discipline that suggests you can handle mortgage payments. You're worth professional time because you can actually execute a purchase. These changes are real and meaningful. But here's what didn't change. The houses you can afford are still determined by income, not savings. A household making 65,000 can't comfortably afford a $250,000 house regardless of down payment size. The income required to buy comfortably is still the primary limiting factor. Market prices didn't shift because you hit a savings milestone. The long term financial wisdom of buying versus renting is still context dependent on your market, your career stability, your life plans. The psychological shift is real and valuable. It's the shift from impossibly far away to achievable with continued effort. But don't confuse industry validation with mathematical readiness. They're related but not identical. Being taken seriously is not the same as being financially prepared. Getting pre approved is not the same as being able to afford the monthly reality. Crossing 50,000 in savings is an achievement worth celebrating. It's not automatically a signal to buy. Let me give you permission to do something radical. If you're at 50,000 saved but household income is below 75,000, you have permission to wait. Keep saving to 70 to 80,000, which gives you true choice of properties and financial breathing room. That extra cushion means you can handle the roof replacement in year 3 without panic. You can lose a job and survive on one income for a few months. You can maintain your retirement contributions and emergency fund simultaneously. The psychological milestone is real. Safety matters more than validation. If you're at 50,000 saved with household income of 85,000 or higher, you're probably 6 to 9 months from buying. Time to get serious about pre-approval, neighborhood research, understanding your market deeply. You're in legitimate buying position. Take your time anyway. The rush benefits everyone except you. If you're at 50,000 saved but in a market where starter homes are 400,000 or higher, you haven't hit the threshold yet. You're at the halfway point. The psychology shift is premature. Protect yourself from industry pressure. Keep saving. Consider whether this market makes sense for your income level. Maybe it doesn't, that's okay. You can choose not to play the game of buying at your maximum approval. You can choose to buy below your approval amount and maintain financial flexibility. You can choose to keep renting while you save more or wait for income growth or research different markets. You can choose to relocate to a market where your income to price ratio is healthier. These are all valid choices that don't make you a failure. They make you financially intelligent. Real wealth isn't home ownership, it's freedom. It's having options when life changes. It's sleeping well because you know you can handle surprises. It's not sacrificing every other goal to maintain a mortgage payment. If buying a house means eliminating your emergency fund, pausing retirement savings, and living on $1,400 monthly for everything beyond housing, you haven't won. You've traded one form of financial stress for another. The real transformation isn't crossing 50,000. It's crossing 50,000 with sufficient income to support the monthly burden comfortably. One without the other is progress, not readiness. Sarah and Marcus at 78,000 income with 52,000 saved are in a different position than a couple at 95,000 income with 50,000 saved. Same savings. Completely different monthly reality. Same validation from realtors. Completely different financial pressure. Success isn't buying when you can. It's buying when you should, when the income supports it, when the cushion is deep enough to weather storms, when you're not sacrificing every other financial goal to maintain the payment, when the monthly budget includes room for life, not just survival. 50,000 saved doesn't make you a home buyer. It makes you eligible to have the conversation. Your income determines whether that conversation ends in a signature or a reality check. And sometimes the reality check is the better outcome. Sometimes waiting is winning. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do with 50,000 saved is save for 60 or 70 while your income grows. The houses will still be there. Your financial security might not be if you jump too soon.